do good research on your own, right? Does any of you know how to even like carry out research? Let me check your timetable to see if it is there, because it's part of like the most important things for designers to do: usability testing and iteration, prototyping and design systems, app, web, and responsive design, visual design, introduction to design systems, final projects and career. There's no research in your timetable or more. So what will happen is I'm going to teach you guys a little bit on research. By the end of this class today, you guys will have a little bit more knowledge on research, because it's a very important trait a designer has to have. One more question before we go into today's topic. How many of you have started looking at your surroundings much more closely and relating a few design principles with things around you? Nobody? Okay. So I'm going to assume that, okay, Femi, I'm going to assume that the reason why you haven't started looking at your environment with more, what's the word? More interest and intentionality is because you haven't taken the time out to actually check out or read more on design principles. So once again, I'm encouraging you guys, please go back, read more on design principles. It's when you understand design principles that you'll be able to understand what to actually do with design tools like Figma and Miro and FigJam and the rest. Okay, so please, I'm begging you guys, take it seriously. Try to be more intentional. Okay. So let's go ahead and have our class. Today we're talking about Gestalt principles and visual hierarchy in design. Has any of you heard of Gestalt principles? You can. Okay. No, you haven't. So Gestalt principles and visual hierarchy, we're going to focus a bit on how alignment, contrast, repetition, proximity, balance, and rhythm shape what we see in design. So let's go. So why are we talking about Gestalt principles? It's because beyond aesthetics, great design transcends beauty, shapes user perception and comprehension. And this is kind of giving us a dive into how important guiding attention, user attention is. So Gestalt principles and visual hierarchy directs focus and clarity and clarify communication in UI design. And lastly, it helps you to design with intentionality. You're going to learn to craft designs that are natural, organized, and purposeful. What are Gestalt principles? Gestalt principles describe how humans naturally group visual elements and perceive patterns because our brains prefer to see organized wholes instead of random parts, right? So let me see what I can give you guys as an example of Gestalt principle. Take for instance, GIDA. Take for instance, all these cards up here, they are much more closely related to each other, even though they are individual cards. But because they are like closely placed to each other, your brain perceives them as a whole instead of individual parts, right? So that's how the human brain works. Things that are closely placed to each other are perceived as much more related to each other than things that are kept far apart from each other. And instead of them seeing it as divided items or separate items, because of how close they are seen as one whole item. Okay. So, according to the example I dropped here, in a form, layout, spacing, groups, related inputs together, that's proximity in action. What are the core Gestalt principles? We have the principle of proximity, which means that elements close together appear to be more related to each other. We have the principle of similarity, which means that elements that are similar in shape, color, or size are seen as part of the same group, right? Or seen as more related to each other. We have the principle of continuity, which means that the eyes will follow smooth paths or lines in a design. We have the principle of closure, which means that our minds fill in missing gaps to see a complete shape, right? So if there's, let's say there are times where you see pictures that half of it might be like an art, and then the remaining half is going to be like letters that is like trying to form the rest of the shape of that art. Your mind is automatically going to fill that gap up, and it's going to like know that these letters are actually trying to form the shape of the other half of that art. Then we have the principles of figure and ground. This means that we distinguish between subjects and their backgrounds, and that's where the principle of contrast comes in play too. Because if you have good contrast, you're applying the principle of figure and grounds correctly, according to Gestalt principles. Gestalt in UI design. So we use the principles of Gestalt in design to group elements, to avoid visual cluster, right, of buttons and information, right? That's one application or applicable use of Gestalt principle in UI UX design. We also use it to create flow. We use it to like guide a user's eyes through a seamless experience using continuity. We've talked about how naturally the human mind or the human brain, especially for those of us in this part of the world, our mind, when we open a website, we first of all go or read. We read things from left to right, and from top to bottom, right? So like from left to right, from top to bottom. That's how we read things over here. But there are certain groups of people who read things from right to left. There are countries where they are writing languages from right to left and from bottom to the top, right? So you have to be conscious of the user type you're building or designing for, and then create a reasonable flow to guide your users' eyes so that they can have a seamless experience when engaging with your product or your design, right? So group elements creates flow. The next applicable way to use Gestalt principle is to clarify areas. That is to make empty states and content areas distinct with figure ground contrast. So this is like just playing around with different design principles such as white space. You're being aware of your white space. You're being aware of how you can use maybe colors or shapes or stuff to fill up white spaces or make them look good and not weird for users to interact with, right? And then lastly, reinforce structure. Now, when you're designing, you have to design with you have to design purposefully, right? Meaning there's going to be structure in your design, and that's where header one, creating header one, header two, header three, body copy, image sizes, and all of those things come into play, right? That's where creating cards, components, and component sets come into play, right? So when you understand Gestalt principles, it helps you to be able to reinforce structure that build clear hierarchies and relationships with consistent spacing and consistent system generally, right? So we have to understand that subconsciously, users actually read structure before they read your text. So if your structure is good, it's part of the contributing factors to which users rely on to stay on your design or stay on your product. Visual hierarchy. Visual hierarchy guides users' attention from the most important to the least important element in a design. And this ensures that users notice what matters first. Now, how do you create visual hierarchy? First, you can create visual hierarchy by size, right? Bigger elements command immediate attention. You can create visual hierarchy by contrast. Strong differences in color or style highlights importance. You can create visual hierarchy by or with position. When you position something to be at the top or center, it is usually noticed first before every other thing. Right, that's in correlation with the contrast and the size. Another way you can communicate visual hierarchy is white space. Empty space makes important items to stand out. So if you want people to like look at or pay attention to a particular thing, the space you create around that particular thing can make it to stand out in its own way. But again, you have to be like really careful when applying white space to your design, right? Then another way to create visual hierarchy is typography. So typography entails font size, font weight, font style, right? And they have a way of indicating or communicating importance, right? So let's say your header is this sort of typeface, this visual hierarchy typeface that we're seeing here, and then your body copy is a normal hierarchy, is a normal typeface. That's one way of creating visual hierarchy. We can see that this visual hierarchy header is bigger in size. the color of the visual hierarchy is darker in color, the position it is placed at the top, and it's placed at the top, then the white space between this hierarchy and the next item is also reasonable. It's enough to let you know that, okay, this is something you have to read first before you move on to any other thing, right? And then the typeface that is used is different from the typeface of the body copy. The weight is slightly heavier than the body copy. The size is bigger than, yeah. And then we now have the body copy that is smaller. The color is a bit lighter. The position is beneath the header, right? Meaning it is a secondary item. And then the white space between the header and the body copy is also there. And what else? The typeface is different. It is normal. There's no drama in the typeface. It's just there existing. The weight is regular and the size is small, right? So that's how you can apply visual hierarchy. One way to apply visual hierarchy. So now let's talk a bit about some of the principles under Gestalt principles. We'll talk about alignment. Alignment is the foundation of order in design. Alignment creates connection and order between elements in design. When you have proper alignment, right, it makes your layout to feel clean. It makes your layouts to feel intentional. It makes your layouts to feel good to engage with, right? And that's why we use grid systems. That's why we use auto layout tools to use alignment easily. When you use tools like grouping or frame selection, when you're like creating elements in your design, it is not going to favor you very well. And that's why, personally, I am not going to be teaching you to use groups unless it is absolutely necessary. Maybe the other tutors would, I don't know. But I don't think I would encourage you guys, not that I don't think, I would never encourage you guys to use like the first thing that should come to your mind to use when it comes to Figma tools should be groups or frame selections. They are not good when, especially when you like designing a very heavy project and you need to make sure everything is aligned, because trust me, developers work with your alignment. Some of them, I don't want to speak bad about them, but some of them, they're like, you are the designer, you're supposed to know that everything is supposed to be aligned properly, right? So even if you miss your alignment by 2 pixels or 4 pixels, they would most likely still leave it like that when they are implementing the design. Now, how would you be able to ensure that your alignment is always in check? It's by learning how to properly use auto layouts to pull off alignments in every possible way, right? You need to learn how to use auto layouts to create cards. You need to learn how to use auto layouts to create buttons, input fields, literally like sections. You need to learn how to use auto layouts to create lots of things. And very recently, Figma keeps upgrading in such a way that developers can now, or let me say, people can now turn a Figma design into a website, right? And the only way they can make it a website that like showcases your design, a website that is like pixel perfect, right, is if you're working with auto layout, because that way it's going to be more certain about your padding system. It's going to be more certain about how much space it should leave between your icon and your text. It's going to be more certain about the consistency in your design, and it's going to be able to bring out your design in a pixel perfect way. But if you're not using auto layout, if you're using groups, it's going to be difficult for them to convert your design to a full-fledged website or a pixel perfect website. So again, this is me encouraging you guys to learn auto layout, okay? Now, with auto layout, you can actually work or get alignment properly. And with grid systems, you can also learn how to like place your items properly. So one is that grid systems help you not to go out of frame. It helps you to like stay within a certain width or height of your frame, so you're not like going out of place. Your elements will not be hanging at the edge of the screen instead of having a little gap between them and the edge of the screen, right? That's how grid systems work. And also the spacing between your elements, grid system also comes in handy in that area too. Next, we have proximity, which is basically grouping related elements close to each other. So elements that are close together feel related. Group labels near input, group icons near text, and similar actions together. Example, grouping name, email, password closer makes them read as one from selection. So let's look at this image over here, right? We have this input field. This input field over here, we can see the title of the input field and then the input field itself. We can also see an icon inside that is kind of like grouped with, please, when I use the word group, I don't mean Control G. I'm just like saying put related items close to each other. That's what I mean by grouping here. Don't confuse it. You're going to be working with auto layouts to create your input fields. Okay. So, so you have, first of all, the text and the icon, a drop-down icon here. You make it an auto layout, Shift A. And then that Shift A container that you have, you can add a field to it. You can add an outline to it to create an input field. Now, if you want to create your input fields in such a way that they have a title above them, it's only reasonable for you to like place the title above and give a reasonable white space between the title and the input field, and then make them one unit by doing Shift A again, right? So we know that this title and this input field are more closely related to each other than this input field and this title here because of the white space that is in between, right? So we know that this is one input field on its own. This is another input field on its own. This is another input field on its own, right? But then again, we know by the principle of proximity that because these three input fields are more closely related to each other, they work collectively as one item and not individually. We know that this input field work together. So when we fill out this form, right, it is like working together, not separately. So all the information that is going to be inputted here is going to be sent together to a particular database and processed or recorded, right? So I was going to mention something. Yes, so not necessarily related to proximity, but one of the reasons why designers actually have like a title above the input field is so that they can have room for exemplars, right? Exemplars rather. So let's say you have mm, let me see what's a good example to use. Let's say you have like an input password input field and your title is create password. You can use an exemplar to show what that password can look like. If the password is supposed to be purely digits or a mix of digits and letters, a mix of digits, letters, and special character, a mix of capital letter, um, small letter, digits, and special characters, you can put a dummy text here saying e.g. 123 ABC, right? So that's one of the purpose or one of the reasons why people or designers use this as like create their input fields this way with the title at the top and then the input field at the bottom to create room for exemplars in case there's a particular way they believe, in case there's a particular way a certain type of information should be passed or put in place. I'm sure you guys must have interacted with a few forms where they have the title and then they have a dummy text here. They can put example at johndoe.com, or when they're like input your surname or your first name and your last name, and then they have like an example, a dummy text. They have John and then they have Doe in the other one, stuff like that, right? So that's what exemplars or rather that's how you can create input fields with exemplars. And yeah, this is like generally the idea of proximity, the principle of proximity in design. Next we have balance. Balance requires you to have like visual stability and weight across your design. So it's basically distributing elements across your design so that one part of the screen doesn't feel too heavy and then the other part of the screen doesn't feel too light. I think we treated, okay, no, we didn't treat it. So we have symmetrical balance, which is like even distribution on both sides to create a calm and formal feel. So let's say if I wanted to create a symmetrical balance on this particular screen, this image would have taken up half of the screen instead of like 40% of the screen. It would have taken 50% of the screen. And then we have asymmetrical balance where we have uneven elements balance each other's visual weights, appearing dynamic and modern. So when we have like an image that is taking up less or more percentage of the screen, it's basically because it feels or you want to like give a more modern feeling to your design, right? And while you're doing that, it's just important that there's like a maintenance of visual weights across your design. So that's it on balance and visual weight and stability. Then we have reading. So in design, there is what we call visual tempo, right? And that is repeating elements with variation, right? Rhythm is used to lead the eye across the screen. It is used to create flow and predictability, and it is used to make layouts feel alive instead of static. So let me show you one very good example I used to learn rhythm. So we have we have cards, right? We have card designs. Give me a moment and see something. I do that on this. Okay, so let me present this screen. Now, one very good example that you can use to learn rhythm very quickly is this. In this card section, we have a reading for every card. And what do we mean by that? It means the number of information that appears um, on a particular more related item or on a particular grouped element, right? So now we have cards scattered all through the design, which is not bad. Now, what does reading do to the human psychology? It makes you to understand that there's a particular number of information that you're supposed to receive when you look at each group on your screen, right? And you can achieve rhythm when you are being consistent with it, right? So if you have, let's say in this card now, what is the reading? First, we have an image showing us what the product is. Then we have the name of the product. Then we have the price. Then we have the number of sold items. And then we have a CTA to add to cart. So we have one, the image, two, the name, three, the price, four, the sold item, but this is like a very tertiary information. So we can like put this together because they are even more closely related to each other. So we can make it one item according to the principle of proximity, right? And then, so let's go back and count again. One, the image, two, the name, three, the price information, and four, the CTA, which is to add to cart. So what's the rhythm? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's like thinking of it as like music, right? So you'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's how visual reading works with the human brain because they've seen the first card. It's giving them 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They see the next card, it's still giving them the same thing 1, 2, 3, 4. They see the next card 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's now creating a rhythm in their brain that any card they see, they are expecting four important elements to be there: the image, the name, the price, and a CTA to add to cart, right? So that's what visual reading does, or that's the principle of visual reading in design, creating um, creating a mental note in your user's brain, right? Then moving on to the next principle, let me recast. Oh, okay, that's all for now. So bringing it all together, when you combine these principles to make your design, what are you going to get? You're going to get visual clarity, or it's going to be visually clear to your users. It's going to be emotionally balanced to your users, and it's going to be intuitively navigable for your users. So good design doesn't just look good, it feels right because it follows natural perception. Okay. Um, so that's it for That's it for Gestalt principle. Any questions? Do you all understand? All right, good. So, yes, Emmanuel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, you previously explained some principles on Monday, like the seven core principles. And while we are talking, you said that maybe while we are doing our own personal research, we'll get to see things that we wonder like, is it not the same thing? What is actually the difference between this and this? So while on Monday, you talked about, you know, movement. You talked about movement. And then today you talked about visual hierarchy with the Gestalt principle. Both of them talk about, you know, focusing the interest of users on the most important item. So like, is there any like foundational difference between these two? Because so far from everything I've seen, they seem closely related. I don't know if that's from Misha, but they seem from the definitions I've seen so far, they look like they're the same, but I don't know that from maybe your own experience, you can distinguish between their differences.
Which principles are those? Sorry.
Movement and visual hierarchy.
Okay, so movement basically has to do with you being able to control your user's eyes from the most important elements in your design to the least important elements in your design. And how do you achieve movement? It is by um, clearly controlling hierarchy in your design. So they work hand in hand. You can't achieve movement without having good hierarchy in your design. That's how it works. Most design principles, if not actually all design principles, work hand in hand. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But do you understand? Should I break it down some more?
If I'm to explain it in my own terms, what you just said, no vex Fanoto can well sure, but what you just said is with visual hierarchy, we can control, or let me just say, movement is actually dependent on visual hierarchy. So the better the visual hierarchy, the better the movements. Is that what you just said?
Yes. The better
Okay.
the hierarchy, the more fluid the movement is. Any other question? No? Okay. So let's take a look at this guy. So here we have a contact us screen that I pulled up from Pinterest. We have a contact us screen I pulled up from Pinterest. And anybody tell me any of the principles from last week's class and this evening's class that has been applied here? You can raise your hand. Yes, Blessing.
Typography,
Hypography.
And contrasts.
Contrast. Okay, you mentioned two. That's so when you say typography, explain to us.
Okay, they made like the contact us was very evident. It was bold enough to show that okay, this is what this page is for you to contact us. Then now you now actually have to like your eyes are attracted to the subtexts, which is the email. Then when you look into it, you'll now see the other informations about it. And also the color contrast is it's warm to the eyes. So you actually want to stay back to know, okay, how can I contact them?
Okay, so the contrast bit, the typography bit, perfect. You understand it perfectly. The contrast bit is more like it's more like focused on accessibility, right? So that means you can clearly read what is written without the text clashing with the background color. I'm guessing that's what you mean by warm on the eyes. Is it?
Yes, please.
All right, good, good. Emmanuel, you can mention only one.
Okay. For me, the most evident here is white space.
White space, nice. So what do you think of your white space? Or was it applied properly?
Yes, it was applied properly because considering the size of the text they used from the three segments on the left, the contact us, the email and phone with the mobile and office, there's actually enough room to breathe, and you can actually see what each segment contains without actually having to stress your eyes looking for particular information. They are closely related, and there's enough space for them to breathe. Then on the card, where you're going to write a message, it is clearly stated the information where you have to put your name is clearly, what I call is clearly placed and they are linked together to show that okay, this is just for the name. Then after the name, you have the email and then you have a message. So there's enough space to actually see all the details contained in this card.
Okay, that's really well said. Nika,
Good evening.
good evening.
Alignment.
Alignment's good. Can you explain?
The phone, email, mobile, and office. The informations on there, they were aligned in. I don't know what to call it, but then again, they were aligned like
Left
from.
aligned.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good. Um, who else is raising their hand? Amoka.
Yeah, good evening, man.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, grouping.
Grouping.
Yes,
What do you mean?
the proximity,
Proximity. Okay, you can explain.
like the contact details, the emails, the phone, the location, the office are grouped together,
Okay.
and also the form feeds also are grouped together.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Any other person? Joyce.
All right, good evening, Ma.
Good
Actually,
evening.
what I can actually see that is like really, really visible from here is the button, the start button.
The start button.
Yes, the one that was created in black there.
The send button.
Oh, hit send. I can't actually see it without my glasses. Yeah, the send button.
Okay. So what principle do you think that falls under?
Yeah. Look, I think it should be the. I can't remember now.
Okay. So
Could it be emphasis?
it could be empathy. Who is that? Follower Femi. Okay. Yeah, it could be Femi. Nice catch there. So it could be emphasis, it could be color, it could be both.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you have a nice voice, by the way. Any other person? Oh my God. Okay. So remember when, okay, Blessing.
Can I say like if I say something about fonts, is it like repeating what I said about typography? Because the fonts are not fighting each other. Um, it's it's not elaborate. I don't know.
So yeah, it falls under typography. The fonts working together in terms of their size, their color, their font style, and texture falls under typography.
Okay, thank you. Also, they the CTA, they added a CTA, which is like write us a message. Even though I don't know what principle that falls under.
Okay, so I'll clarify a bit. CTA is call to action. Call to action is basically a button that you put for users to click on, right? So that write us a message is just a text. It's just a head or a subheading, rather. The main CTA is the send button after the form details, which is in black color. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Femi. Femi, do you want to say something?
Yes. I also see the principle of balance, symmetrical balance between the right side and the left side, contact
Very good.
us and all the other ones.
Very good.
Awesome.
Yeah, very good. So from the principles we had highlighted today, you can clearly see the principle of balance. Mike. Mike.
Are you hear me?
Yeah.
The principle of alignment.
I think someone had already mentioned alignment. But do you have a different view on alignment? Because she specifically mentioned the alignment of a much more closely grouped set of items, which is the alignment of the subtext, email, and the body copy, and then the last text that's here. So do you have like a different alignment view you want to add?
Okay, the placeholders perfectly aligned. Do you get
The
what I'm
what?
saying?
No,
I
sir.
said the placeholders. That is like the spaces for the first name, last name, email. The
Oh, okay.
gaps are
That's this side.
the yeah, the gaps there.
Okay. So what's up with the alignment?
Sorry.
What's up with the alignment?
The gaps are, looking at it from here, you can actually tell that they are all the same. You get that one, no gap is higher than the other, or lesser than the other.
Okay, so I think you're mentioning not just alignment, but also white space.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Any other person before we move on? One more principle that you can see is the principle of rhythm. You can see it in the email, the little text after the email, and then the other text underneath it. You can see it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Reflects in email, phone, mobile, office. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right. Let me see. What can I get from this one? Should I give you guys another example to look at? Or do you all understand it and you don't need any example? You can like look at other examples on your own. Um, let's look at this together. Okay, who wants to go first? Anybody, you can raise your hand and blessing.
Alignment. The
Minutes.
the first half and the lower half of the page, they're aligned. Like no, no bite my tongue, but they're aligned. Also, I
No,
think
just focus on one principle.
all right, yeah, alignment.
All right. So alignments, they are all centered aligned from the hero section to these little items here. They are center aligned. And even to this point here, center aligned. All right, any other person? Nobody. Clinton.
Principle of reading, that the real-time collaboration, the tasks, project and tracking. If you look at it, this we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on.
So the reading here is actually just to try again. Clinton,
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
do you understand why it is two?
I think I've seen, so I'm trying.
So we're counting the reading by we're counting the rhythm by let's say function, right? Not necessarily by the number of lines of a particular function, but by the number of functions in a particular set or in a particular group. Now we have a header and then we have a subtext. The subtext or the body copy is one. The subheader rather is one. Do you understand? So there are two functions in this set. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Do you understand?
Thank you.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? All right. Mike, please hold on. Okay. I think this is the first time you'll be speaking in my class.
Okay, so I think the pictures and the headers
Just
they are arranged
Joseph, hold on a
the
minute.
movement and the hierarchy.
Joseph, can
The
you hold on?
movement and the hierarchy.
Can you hold on a moment? I'd like to hear from Okeke first.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening,
Can
everyone.
I speak it?
Good
Okay, what
evening
I
to
just noticed was balance. Talking about balance, you can see that the pictures, you can see 4 on the left hand side and 4 on the right hand side.
Okay. All right. Balance. Okay, that's good. And then there's like, huh?
Okay.
Joseph, yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. The movement is okay and the movement and hierarchy goes hand in hand.
No, just mention only one design principle you can spot.
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy. Okay, explain.
The text, the header and the head as in that streamline your team, exchange your workflow, they are arranging in I don't know, like the hierarchy as in you can see that the streamline your team is written in a tiny business supercharge your workflow. It's written with bold color.
Okay. So what makes them to have a greater hierarchy than any other thing on the screen?
So I think that should be as in the important information they are trying to pass as in the important
Like
information.
what makes them to appear as the first or most important information?
But I think
What
that is the title of the
and what is
I mean,
used to communicate hierarchy? How do we communicate hierarchy?
the text
Mm,
and how they are arranged as accordingly.
okay.
As in how
What,
the elements are arranged accordingly.
okay. Any other thing? Remember how we said that you communicate hierarchy through color and size?
Yes, yes. And the
Okay.
colors are not actually the same.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Joseph. Michael,
Okay, good evening.
good evening.
What I noticed is repetition.
Repetition, that's good.
So
And
where I notice repetition is, first things first, the colors. Apart from the pictures, there is the basic colors here are just black, gray, and dark gray. I don't know if you're getting me. Like basic colors, but there's no extra like too much different colors. Then the fonts. Most of the writings here are just the same typeface. Most of the writings are same typeface.
okay.
So that's
All right. So repetition in terms of color. Thank you. Emmanuel Okochukwu.
I just wanted to like, why I was like toggling on and off with raising my nose because I don't know, there were little chips into what I wanted to say. But from my own perspective, the typography in the hero section is basically what I want to talk about. From what the previous speaker, like before Moses, the one that was talking about the streamline. For me, what I would say is that streamline your team as a phrase. Streamlining your team. I don't the typeface they use there, the weight of the typeface they use in streamline your team is actually showing like maybe a thinness. Like it has its own explanation to what streamlining your team is. And then supercharge your workflow is trying to explain that, okay, there's an explosion here. And, it has moved from just the thin version to like a more emphasized version. So if we're saying streamline your team as a phrase, the next line, supercharge your workflow. So there's, what I call it, there's a series of interpretation from like basically movement in the typeface. So each typeface is explaining what the user is experiencing. I don't know whether it has cut through
Yeah.
many, but
Similar to how. Oh, sorry. Go on.
hold on.
Go on. Go on.
So like what I was saying is that the streamline your team as a phrase has its own typeface to explain, or has its own weight of typeface to explain that, okay, for understanding this phrase, it means that you're narrowing down something, you're narrowing down something in your team, and then the effort of your team is now exploding into something that will, will give you more output from the workflow. So the typeface and the weight they use in the different lines actually explains that. So that's why I say typography.
All right. Thank you so much. That's a very great attention to detail. Similar to how you can communicate or um, invoke feelings in your users using colors, you can also communicate and invoke feelings in your users using your typeface. So very good with the way you like explained it. Streamlining means narrowing down or cutting down or being selective, right, with your stuff. And the typeface that they used is slim. It's a very slim typeface. It is like closely packed together. So it really communicates the streamlining or the narrowing down that they are trying to encourage you to do with that one line. And then we have supercharge your workflow. Supercharge in itself, it's more like a very bold statement or a very bold word rather. So it's an empowering word. It's something that should make you bold, confident, and feel powerful, right? So supercharge your workflow, and then from the closely packed typeface they used, when it comes to supercharge your workflow, they want you to feel energetic about supercharging your workflow. And that's why they changed the typeface in that particular line, something bold and straight to the point, something empowering. So very nice point out, Emmanuel. Thank you so much. Um, who is it that has been talking about typography? So this is another good use. I think it's Blessing who was trying to point out typography. So this is another good use of typography, right? Commanding or evoking emotions in your users. There's an example that I use a lot in class, and that is when you see a let me check where it should be. Let me check where when you see a particular typeface on certain screens, right? Sorry. When you see a particular string of text on different screens, right, it can either make you feel good or make you feel scared, depending on the typeface that you use. And that's why typeface matters. Your choice of typeface matters. A particular text in like an airy typeface is going to make you feel like somebody is out to get you. And that same text in a very nice, lovable, calm, beautiful typeface can make you feel like, oh, that's so romantic, right? So it's very important that you pay attention to all these
Sorry,
little.
ma.
Sorry? Hello?
Please, I have a question.
Please, can you hold on for a bit?
Hmm?
And I would also encourage you to raise your hand so that we don't talk over each other next time you want to speak, yeah?
Okay, ma.
So if you have a typeface that is like this, it always comes off as nice, calm. It's coming from a friendly place. But if you have a typeface that's like this, you would think, somebody wants to kill me. I need to run for my life. Do you understand? So these are reasons why you need to pay extra attention to the typefaces you use in your design. You might not know the particular typeface to like use when you're um, designing a particular product type, and that's where a little bit of research can help you out. And we're going to talk about research a little bit before the class ends, okay? Joseph, what is your question?
Yes, ma. But sorry, ma. The question is not related to us as we are doing here right now. But I've been thinking about it lately.
So what is your question?
I was doing some research about GIS and Web3. So I don't know if all these rules now, all these principles are also applied to Web3 or something like that.
Yes, they are applied to Web3.
Okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
Okay. Um, Femi. Femi, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Okay, I didn't know you had called me already. I wanted to highlight a principle I found of consistency in the corner radius of the buttons. The two buttons here around the nav area and the one just below the supercharge workflow. They have similar corner radius. And that's is something. And then even the typefaces, the weight of the typeface of the copy text and the nav are also consistent. So it's one of the
Okay.
things I noticed.
Okay. Consistency. That's a good point out too. You have to maintain consistency across your design so that your users don't feel off when interacting with your product. Thank you so much to everyone who has pointed out one or two things so far. Michael.
Please, I want to know, will you say consistency and repetition? This I did. Will you group them the same thing? Are they like the same thing?
So
Okay.
how do I explain this? Um, repetition forms a pattern, right? Repetition forms patterns in design. And when you're repeating a particular thing, right, it only makes sense for those repeated elements to be consistent in terms of size or weight or number of information that they present. So let's go back to the Temu website that we had. Temu website that we had opened before. Temu. So now we have repetition, right? Because each card it's repeated across board, right? If for one reason or another the designer was like, oh, I've designed this one, I want it to look I want the next one, the next card beside it to look unique or different, and he now switches this title at the top for or with the price at the bottom. It has distorted the flow that users are used to. Remember, the rhythm is image, title or name, and then amount and add to cart, right? But now it's distorted the flow. It's now image, amount, title, and then add to cart. It is slightly inconsistent with the other cards that users have already started making a rhythm out of, right? But if you have a card that is consistent in terms of organization of information, right, it makes your users to know what to expect and not be thrown off balance by a slight variation or a slight difference. Or let's even say that they switch it in such a way that it's now the text that is above and the image that is below. Like, it's just going to feel weird to users when they've been used to this rhythm and then they just see one that the image is now below and then the text is now above. If you're doing it intentionally to like communicate maybe you want it to stand out in a certain way, probably because it's like maybe a giveaway or something. That's fine. But as long as the card is serving the same purpose as every other card that is here, it is best to remain consistency across all card designs, right? And then repetition is just you repeating, repeatedly using that card when there's a need for that card to be used.
Okay, I
So they
understand.
work hand in hand. The principles of design work hand in hand. They don't work separately. They work collectively. So sometimes it feels like, oh, one principle is on its own, or one principle means the same thing as the other. But it's not necessarily true. It's just that sometimes to be able to achieve a certain principle, you need to apply one or two other principles. Like how we talk about hierarchy. To be able to achieve hierarchy, you need to apply the principle of typography and color, right? To be able to apply movement, you need to apply the principle of hierarchy and white space. And what else? So do you understand? These principles, they work hand in hand, and some principles you can obviously see some of these principles when you've applied other principles before them. And that's why we have about 20 something plus design principles. Wow. Oh my days. So we'll take just one more and then we'll move on to research. Last one. Um, okay, let's have it. What do you guys think about this one? Yeah, Michael.
Okay, I would say emphasis. The first thing, emphasis. Because the
Okay.
first thing that will catch your eye is the melodies that help you stay focused because the design is more like musical something. So that's first thing that will grab your eye. The picture, the image of the person and the first right, the melodies that help you stay focused. So it's more like making the emphasis, making the message clear.
All right. That's really good. Thank you. Femi.
Yes, I also see a good example of repetition in the circles and wave lines here. I have 4 circles and then there's wave lines about 4. Looks like repetition to me.
Circles. Like here.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, that's a good one. Any other person? Emmanuel.
Okay, for me, I would say movement. Considering like we're just assuming that this design is mainly for users that are not Arabians or that are not from Dubai. Well, the movement is that, like you said, all these principles are collective, they are used collectively. So the movement is from the left side of the screen, showing that these melodies that help you to stay focused, and then taking our attention to the image and the flow. like Femi said. But there's something I actually want to point out. For them using melodies particularly as a word, and then the integration of these small images. For me, in my own understanding, melody is such what I call it is softer, you know, word. And then these images that are actually showing the tree, the wind, the water side, are correlating what they actually mean by melodies, because you feel this kind of calm and cool sensation, just even like the picture displayed. The melodies that help you stay focused. These images inside the circles are showing you areas or natural, locations that actually contribute to this focus. And then the image basically just sums it up. So that's just what I want to point out.
All right, that's a good point out. Thank you so much. So the images are used in correlation with the text or the title of the melodies that you can see beneath them. You can see for the first image, it's saying moment of silence. The next is saying the sound of nature. And the next is saying fantastic wave. So they are in correlation with the title of the featured melodies. That's a nice point out. So automatically, this page is this hero section rather is like communicating that this is for maybe calming or relaxation sounds, right? So maybe if you're doing yoga or you need to meditate and you need like certain calm songs to play, that's what you use. Also, you can see the image, like the lady that is in the hero section. She looks like she is calm. She's taking something in a gentle way, right? So that's another thing. Using the right images to visually communicate to your users what certain things are before they actually like read about it is important. Michael, what's up? Michael.
Sorry, it's a mistake. I forgot to bring my hand down.
All right. Femi, what's up?
Yes, I noticed something in the headers, not the header, the nav section. I don't know if it's the way they designed the stuff, but it looks like the nav section is not in alignment with the rest of the section. Like the soundtrack is way towards the right, the login is way towards the right compared to the melodies, and the featured melody are right on the same spot. But that one is just as if they justified them. I don't know. It just looks different.
Sorry, the soundtrack, you mean the logo?
The logo, the login, then where they wrote, what's this? Is it library, pricing? The very first, the top,
So the nav.
yes, the nav.
Okay, what's wrong with the nav?
It doesn't look it's not looking like it's aligning with the rest of the text.
Oh, you mean it's not like on the same straight
It's
line?
not on the same straight line, yes.
Or
I
the
don't know if
same-
it was intentional
Oh yeah,
or
it's intentional. So we have what we call padding for desktop frames, right? Similar to how we have like padding for mobile frames, and that is applied or maintained using your grid system, right? So when you create a grid system for your desktop, it's always advisable to leave enough gap between the edge of your screen and the contents that will be like at the end of the left, the right, and the top and bottom, right? So first, let's see the gap between the top of the screen and the top of the logo or the button is reasonable. And then the gap between this and the edge of the screen is also reasonable. So it's most likely that the reason why they did it this way is because moving on like down the design, there are sections that are going to also start from this particular stuff, right? This particular line or this particular gap from the screen instead of from here. So currently we're looking at only the hero section. This is just the hero section. We don't know what's going on after the hero section. If the about us section is going to start from this corner of the screen instead of from this gap here. Do you understand?
Okay, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Joseph.
Yes, ma'am. I can see framing. They use framing around the this thing.
Framing. What do you mean?
As in the border that they put around the
Around the what?
design.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure I understand that. Blessing.
Okay, I was raising my hand because when you were explaining what the other guy was talking about with the nav bar, I wasn't seeing your cursor, so I wasn't really following what you were saying. Then then the last guy that spoke, what he was talking about is frames. That's what he was talking about.
Frames. I still don't understand.
Okay, he's talking about the use of frames, auto layouts, I think. Desktop frame, the frame for desktop, the different this rectangle inside the rectangle,
Yeah, but I don't understand how it's related to the principle of design.
Get everything organized and in its spots. I don't know, I'm just trying to like read more what he said.
Okay, so alignment and alignment then. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so that's all we're going to talk about on Gestalt principle and visual hierarchy. I'm going to send the link to today's class and last week's class presentation to the WhatsApp group chat. What am I supposed to talk about again?
Research.
Oh yeah, thank you. Research. So as designers, it's very important that you carry out research. Sorry. Oh my days. Give me a moment, please. Okay. So it's very important that you carry out research before you embark on any design you do. You have enough tools to work with. You have your thank God for AI, right? You have your AI tools to work with. You have tools like ChatGPT, you have tools like V0 to work with. You have tools that can help you simulate what a landing page can look like based on the PRD you use, or based on the description you feed it, or the prompt you feed it, right? So you need to learn how to make use of these tools to get what you need. My very important tool to make use of is ChatGPT, and you have to learn how to train your chat to give you information, good information to work with, not the generic information that we have going on, right? How do you do that? You have to intentionally mention certain things to your chat, and one of those things that you can mention to your chat to make it generate more humane responses to you could be stuff like, explain this stuff to me as though I am a 7-year-old, right? I need you to break certain things down. I need you to introduce certain concepts. You can actually interact with your chat GPT like you're interacting with a human being and get a humane response from chat. Now, let's say, for instance, you're supposed to design a landing page, a DeFi landing page, or you're supposed to design an NFT marketplace landing page. For those of you who don't know what NFTs are, they are non-fungible tokens, and it is common in the Web3 space. NFTs have been used by communities who offer cohorts in the Web3 space as proof of attendance, right? So this cohort you guys are attending, if GIDA creates an NFT, that's going to serve as your certificate, right? Or yeah, it's going to serve as your certificate for attending this cohort. By the end of the cohort, you're going to be able to mint the NFT, right? So let's say that you guys are told to design an NFT marketplace landing page, right? How are you going to go about it? The thing is, you would not probably know the key things that should be in an NFT marketplace because it would be your first time designing such a thing or even interacting with it, especially considering the fact that you're new to Web3. So your go-to is the first thing to do is to understand what NFTs are, and then understand what NFT marketplaces are. Understand the user types that engage with NFT marketplaces. I don't have a presentation for this because I didn't know that you guys would not be having research in your timetable. I didn't check for it, but follow me. So you have to understand very basic information. You have to understand the type of users you're designing for, because again, you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for other people. So you have to understand who those other people you're designing for are. You have to understand I did this in the cohort I had taught in my community some weeks ago. Now, your research has to cover, if you can even try to know a little bit history on the topic before you start designing, it's going to help you to design with more confidence because you're now more empowered with the right knowledge. You now know who this product type was initially designed for and who the dominating user types are currently. NFC marketplaces were initially designed for artists, right? So that they'll be able to sell their artworks in the Web3 space. But who are the people that are now running or making use of NFT marketplaces more in this time, in this year? It is the art collectors that are engaging more with NFT marketplaces than the artists themselves. It is what do they call these guys? Farmers, NFT farmers that are engaging with NFT marketplaces than the artists themselves, right? So it was initially designed for so and so people in mind, but um, other user types engaged with it and they found a way to make it favor them. So now it is being designed, or yeah, it is being designed for this user type in mind. And that's the funny thing about products. You can design for a particular user type in mind, and then when you put it out there for testing and people start interacting with your product, it's going to attract another user type that you didn't even expect to engage with the product. And the user type you had initially designed for might not even engage with the product as much. So you now have to like go back to your drawing board and design it even better for the people who are now engaging or interacting with your products. So an NFT marketplace. Where was I? So when you're designing, you need to understand or know the type of design, the type of users you're designing for. You need to know about the topic, right? You can't just blindly go and design, right? Another thing is you need to learn how to design in sections. That you're designing a landing page does not mean you should design all the section at once. Take it bit by bit. Start with the hero section, then go to the next section, which is mostly an about us section. Then go to the next section, which is like maybe our services section, right? Like take it section by section. You don't need to like think of the entire section as like one thing that you must get right. Just take it section by section, especially when you're designing a product that might feel overwhelming. Don't pressure yourself unnecessarily, like just break it down little by little and try to make use of key websites. You have like behance.com, you have pinterest.com, you have Figma community, you have dribble.com. Did I spell it well? 1, 2, 3. And what else? You have normal Google Chrome. These are places that you can actually try to get inspiration or develop or build a mood board from. So someone says, oh, design an NFT marketplace NFT marketplace landing page for me. You don't know what NFT marketplaces are. You can quickly Google it. What are NFTs? What are NFT marketplaces? Or you can use ChatGPT to find that out, right? And if it's like bringing up terminologies that are too complex for you to understand, you can tell it to break the definition down for you and explain it to you as though you are a 12-year-old or something. This is something I've always encouraged my students to actually do, because Web3 is like it can come off as a lot, and that's basically because of the terminologies that are used. So it makes you feel like you don't know anything when you're interacting with Web3 products, but when it is broken down to you or broken down for you in terms that you can understand, in terms that you can relate to, right? It's not so overwhelming to engage with or interact with. That's the truth about Web3. So when you come across different things that's like seems scary and bigger than your capacity, just take it to ChatGPT to help you break it down and explain it to you as though you are a child, a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, whatever it is, and it's going to break it down for you. You can even tell it more specifically that you're Nigerian, so it should break it down to things that you can relate with in your day-to-day activities, right? And it's going to do so quite well for you. So that's your first approach to research. The next approach to research is this. You are not the first person who will be designing something, and you won't be the last person. Highest, the concept might be tweaked in such a way that it looks like you're the first person to design it, but you're not necessarily like the absolute first person to design something. So why don't you search on Pinterest or Behance or in the Figma community or on Dribble or even on Google Chrome? Search for that particular product type, right? And see how they, like people who have experimented with it, see how they have built it, see the common similarities between each design, and look for the ones that resonate more with what you're trying to achieve in your own design and go with it. Okay, like that's the basic thing you should do as a designer. You don't have to like think of everything from beginning to end all by yourself. There are people who have experimented, they have done proper research, and this is what they came up with. I'm not saying you shouldn't do your own research to like understand user behavior and how users actually interact with these products, but these guys have already like figured that okay, this particular layout is what we discovered users are interacting with best, so we've applied it to so and so product type. You can learn from that and then also apply it to your own products too. That's NFT Marketplace. Talk about DeFi now. What is DeFi? DeFi is decentralized finance. In Web2 language, it is fintech, right? So if you understand the concept around fintech, you would be able to apply it to DeFi. The only thing is that because it is open source, that means it is like open for everybody to see. And because it is Web3, the terminologies are going to be different. And then what else? There might be a slightly more information than in normal fintech applications or products in DeFi's, right? So your job now is to do your own research, understand what DeFi is, try to relate it to Web2 terminologies or Web2 language, because the general idea of UI UX design in Web3 is that they should be adoptable by Web2 natives, that's people who use Web2 a lot. They should be able to relate when they are using Web3 products, right? So you stand as the bridge between these guys and the complexity of Web3, and you need to look for a way to bridge it. So how do you do that? You have to first of all understand for yourself how you can simplify these terminologies in Web3 to Web2, and then look for a way to translate them so that a layman on the roadside would be able to understand it if you should bring a Web3 product to them to use, right? So your research should revolve around all these, what do I call it? All these points that I've mentioned, right? So your research tools are ChatGPT. Your research tools are ChatGPT, Behance, Google Chrome, Pinterest, Figma community, and live projects that have been released in Web3 communities. Start interacting with Web3 projects. Interact. I'm not talking about farming airdrop. That's not Web3. That's not Web3. Interact with real projects. I can drop Web3. I can drop links to Web3 projects for you guys to start interacting with so that you have an idea of what they are. They might be confusing to you, like when you start interacting with them, but I'm sure that over time it's going to like make sense to you. So this is it, right? You need to challenge yourself. When you interact with any project that seems confusing to you, quickly do a little research on what that project type is about. Let's AI break it down for you. Let them like help you understand the idea behind or the concepts behind such product type rather existing does for communities and you as a person. So you can interact with DeFi's, you can interact with DAOs, you can interact with social fi. All these things, they are just things, terminologies that are there to like make you feel not so smart. But trust me, when you do your research, it's going to be a shame on them and not on you. So yeah, that's like basically it's about research. Those are the basics about research. And another thing is try to ask questions. Don't shy away from asking questions. When you notice users interacting more with a certain, I mean, it's going to get to a point in your design where you're going to actually have to draft user persona. So it's going to like require you engaging with different research types. Jesus, how is research not in your curriculum? It's going to require you engaging with different research types. And we have like multiple research types. We have quantitative research, we have qualitative research, we have surveys, we have interviews. So user persona, what is it about? User persona is about like helping you. Okay, she taught you guys. Oh, nice. So you're going to have to like engage in different research type so that you'll be able to properly design. It's the foundation of every designer. If you can't do any research, you're going to be a bad designer. And you are not going to be bad designers, right? You're going to be what? What are you guys going to be? Good designers. Good designers. So please do your due diligence, and in no time you'll be recommended for jobs. You might even be called for consultation. You know, there are like different job types under UI UX design, right? You don't necessarily need to design to have a great career in UI UX. You can be a researcher, you can be a consultant, a usability tester, you know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for today's class. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate your time and I hope you have a lovely night rest. I hope you learned something good today. And you people need to read. Go and read. I'm watching you guys. Be reading. So thank you guys so much. Have a lovely night rest.